What's up, everybody? Let me get the music going again. We have a different episode than normal. We have a very different episode than normal. We have a guest star that'll be on later. We're going to be talking about Tales of the Valiant, and we're going to be talking about how the name came up. It's been asked all over online. It's been asked in our Discord, and people wanted to know, how did we come to this name? And someone like myself, who I love branding and I love doing this stuff, it was a process, and I think it's a longer process than people understand. We started doing it like, I mean, person in the background can give me the thumbs up, but what, January? I think we started, yeah, January, and we didn't actually 100% till the end of March, something like that. So it was a lot. But before we do that, I want to quickly show off some things that are going on this week over in Kobold, and what the Warrens has going on. We still have, is our moving sale done now? We have one more week of our moving sale. Just this week. If you haven't seen that, let's take a little look here. So, that's the special one. We don't want you to see that yet. So we have a moving sale going on right now. If you click in here, there are shop deals for the moving sale. I will give you a little linky link to this. On top of that, right below, you'll see the featured items. We redid the first Tome of Beasts for Tome of Beasts Revised. And this is the first time we're putting out all three books at once. There's a pocket edition, the limited edition, and the regular. Those are all up for pre-order right now. Kobold's Guide to Dungeon. If you missed it, we did it live on chats. We did the 30-minute build and built a crazy set piece. I'm thinking about putting that together and letting you all download it and use it for your own games. It was fun building with the community. You asked, and it is here. We put our campaign builder cities character sheet out for doing our campaign city builders for cities and towns. A lot of people were asking where it was. It was just one of those things that was last in the list of things to do for the Kickstarter. It is now out and free to download. On top of that, our blog post has done the next boss fight. If you haven't seen these are like multi-stage versions of a monster to be able to do a boss fight. And I had to at least showcase this one because it says making the sausage. It made me laugh. I live in Wisconsin. The sausage making made me laugh. But it's a haunted giant, and there's multi-stages for how this works. So you got your phase 1 through 3, and they change. It's like kind of like a video game boss fight. Amazing piece. We also have one for a treant. If you've missed that, that's coming up in the next live play that we do. And then the last thing, and I think this is probably the one everyone wants to know, if you haven't signed up, do it, because Packet 3 drops this Friday. I gotta tell you, it's a big boy. It is very, very big. It's the largest of the packet so far. There is a ton of content in it. If you are a person who GMs or really wants to kind of see the changes that we're making to make 5e the next, iteration of it, that is what we're doing with Tales of the Valiant. And this Monster Vault book has a lot. I'm not done reading it yet. That's how much is in it. I'm not done. So that's it. That's really quick over in our land. Nothing crazy. I just wanted to at least get you that for our show notes. This Friday it'll drop. Don't forget to pick up the Pocket Edition. It's the first time it's launched at the same time for Tome of Beasts 3 as well. That's out. And then we're going to talk TOV. We're going to talk Tales of the Valiant. And I have a question before I bring our guest on. What do you call it? Do you call it Tales? Do you call it the Valiant? Do you call it TOV? How do you abbreviate it when you talk to people? We kind of have an internal bet going on. And I think I'm right, of course, but we'll see what it actually is going on. But that's all. So today we have Dot with us. I am super excited. Hi, Dot. We get to talk 2 weeks in a row.
I know, I'm back. Y'all couldn't get rid of me.
I know. I should just have a torch that I can click a button and turn it on next to you so we
pass
the torch back and forth. Dot, how you been? You been a busy girl?
I have been busy. I've been busy working on Tales of the Valiant, everyone, and I know you don't get to see the day-to-day, but I'm here to talk a little bit about it, so...
So what all you got to talk about today?
Well, we're getting a lot of questions. There's love and hate out there, but lots of questions around why Tales of the Valiant? How did we go from Black Flag to TOV? And so there were a couple of things I thought, you know what, maybe it's time for us to open up a little bit now that the name's out there, the trademark's in place, to talk a little bit about how we landed on Tales of the Valiant and why we didn't keep, say, the name Project Black Flag, which seems to be, a kind of resounding question of like, why didn't you just stick with TOV? So... with Black Flag. There's a couple good reasons. And so I'm going to do my best to answer questions. So if y'all have them, I know we make a space for that and I will do my best. And other than that, maybe I'll answer all your questions before you even have to ask them. So
I don't know if you forgot how this goes.
I know.
That's not a thing, everybody. So I guess let's start with the meat of it all. We went through way too many names.
We went through over 300 names. Let me just put that out there.
Who made up 300 names? How did that go?
So
we put together whiskey,
we put together a little committee of some of our editorial team, myself from marketing, and we just started the dumping ground of like, legal be damned, what is our pie in the sky? And that kind of started with writing also what we didn't want. When we're looking at making a new name for ourselves, right? A new book of this caliber for Kobold Press, we wanted to make sure that it wasn't really branded like any of our competitors.
Sure.
So
that makes sense
the first,
to me.
Yeah, so the first thing that we said was we got to lose the ampersand. Nothing with and. Nothing with and. We've gotten a lot of like, why not, castles and kobolds or blank and blank? Because you know what? We didn't want to have a direct descendant of the original brand. We wanted to create something unique. So we said, okay, let's have Celeste write up a little thing about, from her mind, of what is, at the time, Project Black Flag, this book. What can we expect from it? And Celeste's write-up was great, Celeste is a bit of a poet in my mind, and she kind of came from the idea of, like, this is a place of mutual storytelling, where we craft spells, I guess you could say, but this idea of, like, we're crafting worlds together in this kind of magical way, using our imaginations, but more importantly, we're doing it by what we're calling the labyrinth, which is all of the mini planes, from your homebrew table to your actual play to Midgard, all kind of linked amongst the multiverse throughout this book, so that there's no one particular setting. And so there was a lot of things we ran with, and from that little write-up from Celeste, we hit the ground running. Dump everything that you can dump. And then we did the first round of like, absolutely not. This is horrible. That sounds like a Sega Genesis game.
There was a lot.
There were a lot
NES
of those
games in there. There was a ton.
So we called through a lot of that and kind of got rid of it. And then we dug a little deep into some what we call like the brand finding, right? What did we want from this? What did we specifically because of Black Flag? Yeah. From its iteration, it was meant to not just be this kind of rebellious Black Flag raise, but even in its growth, it was meant to be this kind of bold new step for Kobold Press. And the word bold kept coming up quite a lot. We knew we didn't want it in the title, but there was this crux of it being this bold step for a third party to basically go to first party. That is what we were doing. Yeah. And so we wanted to encompass the word bold. The brave endeavor of both Kobold Press and our audience to support this kind of thing, to come to the table in the face of of everything that was going on since January.
I mean, it was chaos.
Right, and to do something brave together.
Yeah. Yeah. You lost your mic, Dot. Yeah. I lost you. I lost Dot, everybody. Dot's mic. No, nothing.
What about now?
Now I can hear you. It's static and popped.
Weird. Okay, well,
when you move,
this is what
it's
I'm getting.
new
Yeah,
wire
I was gonna say.
time.
Well, I was gonna say I've got new technology coming. It's just not here yet. I've got a new sound mixer. But we really wanted to look at the brave pieces of what we as a collective of a community were doing, not just Kobold Press.
I think too, you don't see a lot of third-party publishing as a word that kind of came with, honestly, for this industry, 3.0. It's really when it kind of hit hard.
Yep.
And once 5e hit and everything opened up and people got to use the OGL, you started seeing publishers kind of break away from the quality of third party. And indie, I think, led that way a lot. And now it's just publishers.
Yeah.
Ranked by sales, I guess, because it's not really third party as much as it used to be. And now, definitely, with our own version, our own system, we're not a third party anymore. You're making your own stuff.
It's true. And that's a big part of this, too. I think a lot of people are like, why remake 5e? Why do it? Well, there's the core crux of it, which is at some point, as a company that's been around for 17 years, I use the analogy of like, we're always like 3 kobolds in a trench coat. We're really like 5 kobolds in a trench coat right now. And we've outgrown our trench coat.
Yeah, our coat sucks.
That's what we learned in January, right? In the face of a potential horrible endeavor, when the worst case was still on the table, not the best case, which we have now.
Right.
Staring at the worst case, we said, we are 5 kobolds in a trench coat. We've got to build a new trench coat for ourselves, a new foundation. Yeah. And we decided to build something that would keep us independent and the rest of the community independent as well, no matter what, right?
Yeah. And that's so, all the whole orc license things and everything came out of that.
Exactly. And so whether or not you agree or like the idea that we are looking at a future version of 5e updated with that kobold flair, the fact of the matter is we did it for a kind of multi-tiered reason. We did it because the community needs it. We did it because we need it. And we did it because as we look to the future, the last thing we want is to make everything of our past obsolete.
Yeah, well, it's weird when you've dedicated this much time to a mechanic and an engine to just get up, change, and about face. You have to question, like, how much of that are we going to redo now? What is obsolete? Right. What is no longer valuable for our current moving forward? But if you keep in line and make the conversion at least doable in a matter of minutes, you can convert most things.
Yes.
The hardest things to convert when you do a system change is someone who's had to do like numerous settings into systems and convert them. It's never the monsters or the mechanics for like rules for encounters. It's the player characters. That's the stuff that takes forever to convert because the players have much more minutia than a GM does behind the screen. And I think with what we're doing, that minutia is much easier to actually handle moving forward.
Yes. Yes.
And way more options for you. You can remake your character in that thing maybe you wanted to do that 5e wouldn't let you do because you were limited by the scope of race.
Correct. Correct. So, and then there was, the bigger question of like, well, what do we call this thing? Now, from the beginning, way back when we first started working on this, even before the January leak, so really about July, August of 2022, we had been calling it Project Black Flag. That was like our internal, we'll call it the internal code name, which we use an internal code name for everything.
Yeah, we do, because we don't know what it's called usually until we know what the product is.
We don't know, or until the trademark comes through. Yeah. And so we decided to basically open that door and share it with all of you, our code name, Project Black Flag. And it worked so beautifully because, of course, the Black Flag itself being this kind of raised banner around the purpose of
really should have called
project.
It banner.
Yeah, I know.
Project Black Banner would have
clearly. But here's the thing. We liked that. And I said, well, what can we do? How can we keep the spirit of Project Black Flag in our naming stuff? And we did. We ran with a few names around banner and things like that. But there's always the legal piece, which is the hardest thing because we may love
people know how bad it is. If you've ever been through trademark branding, and it depends on the level you're doing your trademark and branding. I will tell you to always do your research if you're a smaller company. But we have a word that is technically used in a lot of spaces, but there are ways you can do that. Like we all know Valiant is used in other product and IP. It is it's a word that is used in language. Maybe not every day, well, in our everyday language it is, but in normal scope of like talking about your dog, you don't call your dog Valiant very often.
No.
That would be a great dog name.
That is a good dog name, and it would be a great. And then you could call him like Val or right, shorten it or something. Yeah.
So like that's hard to do. That process, how long was that for us? Once we had went through the 300 names, axed a lot of them out, like X relationships. What did we decide on Tales of the Valiant? How long did that process take to go from like lawyer to completion?
Yeah. That actually is the longest piece, right? We had one name that was kind of a TBD that had run through legal for success, and we decided not to go with it, and I can't share it with you because we stole the trademark for it already, and I don't want to tell you because we might use it for something else.
I was going to say, that just means it's going to be another line.
But that was because it was important as we developed this name to develop something that could also go out, right? Because Tales of the Valiant is just our fantasy core. It's just our 5e fantasy, right? So you have to think, like, all of you want pirates, and we've heard space, and we've heard this. That is not this book. This book has to be focused on fantasy so we can build that new trench coat, that new foundation for ourselves. That's what this is. But as we went into the naming, one of the things we wanted was to see names that, or to land on a name that would have growth. So we could do a Tales of the insert
XYZ.
New noun. Right? Because we do plan to expand, and because this is going to become the crux new foundation of our writing, you can't expect that Tales of the Valiant is going to be the only Tales book.
Well, it's a great prefix. So I think the hardest thing when you're doing a line or a series of novels to tabletop or video games, anytime you have a series, the problem you run into, if you're not smart in advance, is how do you name the rest? Do you just use 1, 2, and 3? Is it, is it a subtitle? How do you make that work? But if you have a solid prefix, or even if it's not a prefix, if it's just a word you can use in everything, you get lucky or you're smart. And you can now name everything off of that. So we can do Tales of the Valiant and we can do Tales of whatever later, but that allows our line to all be synonymous. So it's on your bookshelf. I always think about spines of a book. And if you always have Tales of the and then the name of a product, you get to name everything.
And that's part of Kobold Press's growth as well. You're going to see that the spines on the new upcoming Tales books are going to look different than, say, our past lines, because we are now branding into what will become our big future, right? Where hopefully moving forward, you'll begin to see all your Kobold spines looking the same.
I mean, if you look at novels, that's how they did it. A lot of people went back. So if you look at like the old Dragonlance novels, the old R.A. Salvatore stuff, they went back and repackaged to make 3 volumes in similar colors and styles, so you knew those books went together when you bought them. And it's a marketing thing that you only know through experience of failure. That is what you need to do. A lot of people don't know. And you do it now, your stuff raising sales, like, oh, it's these 3 books to get together. Because back in the day, there was no Wikipedia to figure that out.
Right. Well, and it's important too to note that the Tales of the Valiant line, again, is a starting point for what will be a big future thing. And it's not to be confused with the core fantasy roleplay, which is the open system, right? The core fantasy roleplay system, when we're ready to release it, yes, it is a system, is different than Tales of the Valiant. To clarify, Phantom Bunny, regardless if you're agreeing or disagreeing, the fact of the matter is the core fantasy roleplay will release and anybody can use it.
Well, they have to be 2 different trademarks and license too.
And they have to be 2 different things, because the system needs a name and then the book itself needs a name, because you cannot trademark and brand the system name to the book. These are the legal things, regardless of whether you agree or disagree. This is how it actually is.
You see it all throughout tabletop industry. I mean, let's look at people that Wolfgang has obviously worked with through the history of people who all left the ampersand. Monty Cook Games has Numenera, but Cypher System is their system, and that's so they can license them separately, which last year they developed those 2 licenses so they can license them separately, because one's intellectual property for them, and then the other one is, hey, here's the mechanics. We want you to use all of it.
So, for an example, to make that a little bit clearer, right? Core fantasy roleplay, anybody can.
Mike again. I think you have a cable that does not like speaking.
We'll try that again. Check.
Yeah, you're good.
Okay, cool. Okay, so one of the things that when it comes to core fantasy roleplay, we wanted to have a system defined. But the important thing about Tales of the Valiant is it is our trademark, right?
Right.
So we'll just use another example. You don't get to use, if you're writing your own homebrew game or your own adventure you're going to publish to, say, Drive-Thru RPG, which is totally fine. You can do that using the CFR. You cannot use the Tales of the Valiant logo. Why? Because that's our intellectual property.
Yeah.
Our art in the Tales of the Valiant book is our intellectual property. And the way the legal side of things works, we have to protect that art, that book. What we don't have to protect is the CFR, because that is available and open. So yes, we have to have two separate names. And as we move forward, our hope, like I said, is to have another Tales line that may be based off the same CFR system, mechanics, but it could expand into new lineages or new whatever, talents, and all of these kind of things that are for a totally separate book. So you do actually have to kind of have those.
It's to
no
protect
setting
your butt as much as it is to protect ours. We don't want we don't want to send anyone to your door and knock on it for something that we did wrong. We want you to be able to have a license. Do me a favor, refresh your thing. Whatever you played with took your sound and put you off by like 5 seconds, your audio. So refresh the browser source, because I think when you played with things, you lost your audio piece. While she's fixing that.
Is that still really off?
Yeah, really off. Yeah, just refresh it. You're fine.
Okay,
It'll bring you right back
refresh.
in. So while she's refreshing that, the other thing I'd like to mention too about this whole process, I've done this with video game companies when I worked in the video game company industry. I worked with Torque before Unity was a thing. If you're familiar with video game companies, that was a big process. And back in the day, the way engines worked is they wanted you to spend $500,000 to $1 million to use their engine. So when Torque turned into Unity, when my company I was with was like, we really want to use this. We're an indie company in development. Can we use this engine? And then when we go to sale, can we then either pay you at a threshold amount, like when we make our whatever amount, or can we then lease it or license it from you? And it changed the perspective of the entire industry. And you'll notice that, as time went on and iPhones came out and development became more important, licensing changed. So instead of spending $1 million, you may rent it per month because 1, it's like a gym membership. Everyone forgets to cancel it. 2, it allowed people who do not have the money up front to afford to design, because everyone has to start here. They don't start here. This is the rarity. And by letting people have a license instead of paying us a ton of money up front for it, we just said, here, make awesome stuff. That is kind of like that you have to have 2 versions. So Unity has a couple different licenses, and other companies have done that through the time as well. Give me a mic check while I have you off screen, see how it looks. Yeah, better. So that's the thing that a lot of people, the back end, that's why we're here. We're here for the back end today, to kind of tell you, we didn't make these decisions for the hell of it.
We didn't just wake up and Wolfgang went, I'd like to call it TOV.
Yeah.
It's also, it's important to note that even if you look at a lot of your first party publishers, right? I mean, even if we just look at D&D, thing you produce using the now Creative Commons SRD is you get to put that little 5e stamp on the front, right?
Yeah. Someone did ask
the compatibility stamp, right? The compatibility stamp. We are going to have a compatibility stamp. We are working on that, which means if you make something that is compatible with the CFR, you can put it out there. But what D&D doesn't allow you to do is put the actual Dungeons & Dragons logo on your book.
It better be a flexing kobold. Just the swole ball flex.
Yeah, but so it's important to note that there's a lot of legal things going on here, just in terms of publishing and licenses that aren't going to affect you, maybe, as the buyer. Now, if you're planning on writing your own stuff, don't fret. We're going to have compatibility stuff that you can put on the front so everybody knows it's TOV compatible. Now, for some of our partners that do want to have the really big stamp of like, yes, this is a licensed TOV product, not just CFR, but TOV product. That's a whole different license. Now, contract, we got to talk about money and exchange, and it's a much bigger thing. But all of that to be said, the reason we went with Tales of the Valiant, and there were a lot of other options. Our first 10 top tier names are taken trademark wise, right?
Yeah,
and basically what we did is we would get 5 or 6 names we liked, send them over to our legal team. So yes, for all of you are like, did you run this through legal? Yes, of course we ran it through legal.
A lot.
Of course we did. A lot of legal. We paid a lot of money just to make sure we could get a name. And so we'd run it over to legal. Legal would run through it. What they do is they run it through a series of systems to check other trademarks to see on a scale of like green being completely available. Nobody's ever thought of using this word in a trademark ever. To red, you're going to get absolutely sued and have every dollar taken from your company. Where on the scale does the name fall? And that's how they send it back to us. They send us back and they say, this
It's
name,
a risk assessment.
it's a risk assessment. It says, okay, this is a middle tier risk. There are a few companies that use the term Valiant in their names, but nobody uses Tales of the Valiant. And technically, they're in a totally different industry from you. They make Valiant sneakers. And they may say, so it's actually a low risk for you to use this.
Yeah.
Versus, say, a high risk on something else. So we did a lot of this. Now, it's really interesting because as we were developing and trying to figure out the name, the word Valiant came up many times. And it came up in a couple different iterations, like Valiant C, right? There's something about the word Valiant. And when I say not just the creative team that was working behind closed doors, we did an internal Kobold staff and kind of freelance voting. So we showed our top 5 that had gone through legal, and then we opened it up and we just said, okay, Kobolds, you all love games as much as we love games. That's why you work here. Give us your thoughts. Vote on what we have, and and then tell us what else you might like. What is an idea that you have? And without any, completely anonymous and without any guidance, the word Valiant came back from multiple Kobold Press staff organically.
Yeah.
We did not tell them that it was a word on the table. It's a strong word. There's something about it that people are drawn to.
In branding, certain sounding words are always picked over others. Anything with a V is popular. And honestly, letters that you don't see in your language frequently are commonly picked because they feel unique and different. And V, Z, Q, things like that are not used that often. But it's also strong because everyone kind of has their own interpretation of what being valiant is. It's like saying you're a hero, and that is also different to everybody. I think I like that part of it, and I love designing around a V because it's symmetrical and it's really easy to make it asymmetrical or symmetrical. That's just me, though.
I too, from the design standpoint, said, okay, I like the V, right? It's a strong letter. So when all of this staff feedback came back to us, and
your mic again, I feel like tech hates you today, my friend. Because I keep trying to fix your delay and it keeps doing the same thing.
It really does hate me today.
Yeah, now you're on a different mic.
Yeah, that was my headphone mic, so y'all can still hear me.
Yep.
But I'm delayed now, right?
Nope, now you're synced again.
Am I synced?
Yeah, pretty well. Better than you were.
Okay.
You're like 10 milliseconds off.
Okay, well
before.
then. Well, we're glad we're not there.
Still, it doesn't matter. We'll figure it out.
All of that to be said, when the organic feedback came back from staff that basically said Valiant was coming up individually from various people as a suggested name, we had to go back and really consider what that meant. And Valiant was already there, but we had run Valiant through legal. Just the single word Valiant through legal. Not available. Guess what? There's Valiant, or there's Valiant Comics. There's
a video game series.
Video game Valiant. Yeah, Valiant line.
There's a TV series.
So we said, okay, there is something in the Valiant piece, and really Valiant describes that effort that I was talking about, that valiant step by Kobold Press, by the community, by all of us to do something in the wake of what happened in January. So we decided to go back to Celeste words from the very beginning. These words about us telling stories together, about the collaborative imagination, about the magic around a table. And we decided, well, why not just call it Tales of the Valiant? That's what it is. Literally, that's what we do. We tell tales about valiant heroes. And again, valiant being open to how you describe that. You may consider somebody that burns villages as valiant. That's on you, right? But you could also consider somebody that is valiant is brave or helps people, whatever it is. It's not for us to put that interpretation.
I mean, if it's full of treasure-seeking squirrels, you got to burn the village down. You can't get rid of them.
But you got to burn it down, right? But the fact of the matter is, something about Tales of the Valiant landed with us. And so when we went back to legal, knowing that the single word Valiant would work, and we put in Tales of the Valiant, it came back with a very low expectation of being hit for any kind of trademark or copyright pieces, and it kind of became a no-brainer. And so we said, well, we like Tales of the Valiant. Our designer liked Tales of the Valiant, and we, as a looking to the future, liked how we can build off that. Maybe it becomes Tales of the Magic Seekers or
Tales of the Swobold. Yeah, exactly.
Right. Tales of the Swobold. Like, there's 1,000 options of where we could go. But this really being our core fantasy, we liked the idea that we've hit the piece about of telling stories together, and we hit the piece about what it's saying about the kinds of heroes that we play in this game.
And you do want it to be general enough that you can use it long term as maybe your system grows, because as we all know, as more books come out, and I mean as gamers, not as a company, I mean as gamers,
right,
as books come out, more options become available, and options sink or swim a system over long time frames. Sometimes you hit what they call the bloat level, where there's so much now that you have to have a checklist of what is available or not. But also, sometimes your name doesn't fit your game anymore as it develops more and more. And we have a motto and an idea in pillars, and it's literally 3 words that are built into the slogan of what we want Valiant to be. And I think that's not only important for us internally, but externally, when you're at conventions doing anything, when people are saying we're doing, oh yeah, we're playing Tales of the Valiant or TOV or Valiant. That's why I asked in the beginning, what do you call it? Because everyone's going to abbreviate it, because everyone abbreviates anything. I blame messaging people on phones, but everyone abbreviates everything. And I'm curious to see what the abbreviation is when it comes out, because then we can make a new mark for that abbreviation and pins and fun things like that for people. Yeah, and it's been an interesting process. So can you tell us one of the names that went through that you immediately were like, no, we're not doing this? Like, this does not stand. I will not do it.
I might. I
remember a few.
Yes. There were a few. There's one in particular. I can't tell you what it is because we are saving it for something else. I talked in the beginning about how it needed to be a little unique and not really based off of any of our...
Oh, it's the one I like, I'm pretty sure.
Community people or none of the other current companies in the tabletop. And so there's a lot of names out there. And we all know a company that makes a fantasy game that ends in right?
Yeah, of course.
Something Finder. And so a name came to
Ghost
the table.
Finder, yeah, that's
it. Bad name. Yeah, Ghost Finder, that's the one. It came to the table and it was a great name, but it used INDER at the end, the full. And I said, we can't base a whole book off a name that rhymes exactly with.
And they're our friends.
And our friends, nonetheless. And so I had to put a big foot down and say, we're absolutely not using this one, but we could use it for something else later on when it wasn't the full title of this series.
Yeah, when it wasn't seen over and over and over again.
Exactly. A lot of the names that we banked them, right? I put them away for later use. So I'm going to tell all of you, we are not past potentially using Black Flag later in the future. Remember how I talked to you about Tales of the...
Yeah.
There has been a lot of outcry for water-based pirating, corsairing, which is, we have heard you loud and clear. And though this book itself may not cover that, there has been some love given internally to the idea of a seafaring book of some kind that would include a lot of this. And who knows, maybe in the future you'll see a Tales of the Black Flag.
I'm always amazed by the people who want naval vessel and pirating games, because the weakest part in all of tabletop, not even 5e, tabletop, is ship-to-ship combat. It is so hard to mechanically do right and not have people feel like they're left behind. There are some that have done really good cinematic ones, and that's dope. If you want to do cinematic, like the new Star Trek one has a great cinematic one for it. There's some good cinematic ones.
Yes.
Cry for that stuff. I'm excited to see if we, with our new systems in the background, have a way to make ship combat not suck. I mean, it was just not in some books that came out. Or nay.
Yeah, I can't say yes or no, but what I can tell you is that we've heard that cry. We're not completely against it, but for the sake of what is basically the new, like, long-term lineage and future of Kobold Press, we didn't want to lean into pirates right away, right? You have to build a foundation before we can build all the mini rooms.
Our game isn't a pirate game.
Right, it's not. It's a general open fantasy game called Tales of the Valiant that uses the new CFR system. And so yeah, we have put all of your love for pirates and seafaring into that same bank of information. And over the next few years, who knows, you may see something come out. We did struggle a lot around leaving the Black Flag name behind. I mean, even now you'll hear me stumble over TOV to Black Flag.
We're new to it too.
Yeah, we're still new to it, and that's okay. That's going to happen. But we knew that in January, when we needed to come out with this information, we wanted to tell the public what we were doing. We had to call it something, and we were already calling it that internally. So we know it was a strong name. But again, as we moved into Tales of the Valiant, now that it's very public, our biggest goal was to keep the idea of why we raised that Black Flag to begin with. Right? The valiant effort of the future of independent tabletop creators. That is why we did that. That is why we're making this book. And so as we move into Tales of the Valiant, we've gone from simply raising one banner to our banner being the tales.
We're building a castle
all
now.
The tales that we tell, using the new TOV. So we left it with the bold, be bold, be brave, be valiant. And we ran with TOV because of really the long term. And it hit a lot of the points, both internally and externally, that we thought this entire project.
Yep, and your mic. Again, went silent. Yeah, we will. So, with that said, I do have 3 questions I grabbed from Discord, from other chats that I've had, and then from online. Just ones I've saw over and over again. And one's really fun. The other 2 are a little more serious. So I'm gonna let you pick the order. Do you want the fun one now to soften the blow, or do you want the serious ones and then we end on a soft one, on a fun one? What do you want? What order does your mic works?
I think I'm lagging again.
Nope, you're good. Yeah, you are. It's just, it is
I'm
what it is at
lagging
this
again.
point. I've given up on that.
I was trying to make it easier, but I'm not sure.
Nope, just put it back at 0 ms. Don't mess with it. I have it on my end. I'm changing it, and it's not fixable.
I tried.
Because your MS is going up and down like hills and valleys. That's why. So I don't know if it's internet or your piece.
Let's try that. We'll see.
That is such a large delay.
I don't know, you pick. Hit me with the most interesting question.
Okay, the most interesting question.
That's what I was saying. Let me refresh.
Oh, you can refresh. That's fine. Go ahead. Whoop. Refresh. If anyone has a question, put it in chat. Yep, I'm solo. Put it in chat. Put a Q in front of you have a question. I'll go through a couple. I have 2 really fun ones that I think are really good. And one of them is from the audience that's here every Wednesday when we're doing this stuff. And they are very evident they want something. And I want to make sure that is going to happen. If you missed the AMA, I am working on getting the AMA out. We had audio issues during that one as well. I have a feeling that there's some issues going on with audio drivers and video drivers lately as someone who streams 4 times a week. Boy. So if there's any in there, what do we got here? So the Tales of the Valiant are core books, and then there are other supplements. So Tales of the Valiant is the set piece we're doing. The core fantasy system is the one that if you wanted to make a game, you would use that to make your game. Tales of the Valiant is our fantasy set piece. It'll be Tales of the Valiant. We may have other books that come out with that prefix of Tales of. It'll still be a Valiant, Tales of the Valiant book, but we can use that prefix for other things. You all good, Dot? Better. A little better. Yeah. So they asked, so Tales of the Valiant are core rule books, and then there are other supplements. We'll always do supplements because we do them all the time.
Well, you have to remember, we have 10 years of supplements.
Yeah, we are.
Right? Every monster book, every deep magic, all of those are technically usable and supplemental into Tales of the Valiant as it stands. Now, right now, we are working on 2 very meaty, beefy books. So are we working on anything that's supplemental for TOV right now? No, we got to finish TOV first.
That's the first thing, Frog, I was going to ask for you. So
this is why we have partnered with other groups, such as, various publishing partners and VTT partners. VTT is for accessibility. We're looking to make it accessible to anyone and everyone on more than one platform because not everybody uses the same digital platform. As for our publishing partners, they are actively working on building out adventures, settings, additional options using the CFR.
Okay. Yep. So the first one, this has been resounded numerous times over. I have questions that I get online and PMs all the time, but we have been known for the Midgard setting for quite some time, Zobek and all that stuff. When Tales of Valiant comes out, everything is good to go. You know, our release is done, Kickstarter, yada. Are we going to go back to any of our settings and update them to Tales of the Valiant? Is that on like the long-term goal if things are successful? Do we want to keep it for all the fans that are already invested?
I was about to say, I can't say a yes or no, right? Part of the reason why we are trying to make it 5e adjacent and 5e compatible is so that you can still take your Midgard 5e book and use it, right? Yes, there are going to be some, you've already seen it, we're slowly updating some things. We just updated Tome of Beasts, right? Which got a straight release to store, no Kickstarter. And part of that update was to, guess what, bring some of the things from TOV into it. So we are slowly doing the back catalog, but half the reason we wrote TOV to be 5e adjacent is so that we don't have to update every book.
I think the thing that people were questioning the most, if I remember correctly, and this was back in like February, because Packet 1 was lineages, is we've put out a lot of, in 5e, races that have come out in Midgard, and they want to see those brought over. My thought was it easily could be in like a lineage book down the line. Not saying that's what we're doing, but something they could do. Or a blog post to update things that are needed and compile all those things and then maybe put a book out in the future.
We just put out Tome of Heroes.
Correct.
Which, if your players don't have it, I'm sorry. It's a fantastic
That's awesome.
And those, even though that was built on 5e, is still compatible, and there's not going to be... it won't take too much effort to do a little conversion.
I can tell you can use a 5e race as it is and just slap a TOV. We did it. Our Kobold, Swobold, and our normal Kobold, we didn't have lineages yet, and I just put them on top of a regular 5e. Now, it works fine.
I will say for the Player's Guide, right? So the two books coming to Kickstarter, Monster Vault Player's Guide. For the Player's Guide, you are definitely going to see some new lineages that are not part of any... that are Kobold known, but not necessarily part of another core rule book you may own. Yes,
awesome.
Thanks to all of your feedback, actually, on the first playtest packet, we were able to get a good idea of what lineages you'd want to be able to play.
I mean, in the AMA, she did say we are going to see Kobolds.
You're gonna see Kobolds. It's I think that was a leak, but it's gonna happen. And I imagine you're probably gonna see a few of our other more popular lineages.
Races back then, lineages now, another one that was said in here is, why are we embracing power creep? We did say that our characters have a little more power to them in the beginning levels. As a GM, I can say I'm happy about it, because I think it's easier to scale back than it is to scale forward. If you have the tools to play with, you can always pull it down if you don't want as many options. But it has a lot to do mechanically with how things are loaded. We wanted to... If I remember Celeste's words, you can correct me if I'm wrong, we wanted to make sure it wasn't a power creep, that you felt powerful the entire time.
Correct. So instead of not feeling powerful to level 6, because we all know how that feels, or level 5 when you finally get some stuff, instead what we're doing is we're just spreading that peanut butter.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And we wanted to do it because there are two things that we have to answer for in 5e. That the first 3 to 5 levels usually don't feel powerful enough.
That's why you start at 3rd level in every game.
Right? Think about our sorcerers, yeah? And then sometimes when you get up into the higher numbers, 7...
And your mic. You're the worst mic ever. Can't hear you. Yeah, exactly. Hey, no one can, if they can read lips, you can swear all you want right now. No one can hear you. No one can hear you scream. No one can hear you scream. But I think that's true. Like, we wanted it to be balanced and make it feel like you didn't feel so weak in the beginning. Also, there's many systems out there, and we are friends with a lot of companies. I don't want people to think we only think about ourselves as well, because we are working with a lot of other partners. There are people who make very, like I like to call, street level games out there, and it is easy to scale back power into that. Yeah.
Now, there are technically playable burrowing races right now.
There is.
Kobold Press.
They're in the village I burned down, but they're absolutely playable.
I was about to say, there. You can go check out the arena. That's the hedgehog folk that has a natural burrowing speed.
That's actually really fun.
They're fantastic. The arena are probably one of my favorite like races from Kobold. So That being said, what was I know what it was. So, but there's also something I wouldn't call it power creep. Like I said, we're kind of trying to even it out. Give our lower levels some love to make it exciting. Give our higher levels some love so that you don't feel like you become stagnant and so powerful that you gameplay for your GM sucks. So little balancing.
We're leveling the floor, as I say.
It's basically what we're doing.
If you want to put tile down, there can't be dips.
Nope, can't be dips. Can't be cracks.
Nope.
But you know, if you are a fan of Kobold Press, the first thing I'm going to tell you is if you have ever bought one of our monster books, what's the first thing you note about our monsters?
There's
they're
a lot
significantly, yes, there's a lot of them, and they're awesome, but they're significantly more powerful than the average 5e monster.
There's a reason for that. There's been a lot of design diaries from other people out there, and there's some big people who are great designers have said, as a GM, monsters do not have the action economy or the ability to survive a 5-man alpha strike. It just doesn't happen.
It doesn't happen.
They don't even get to go once.
Right? Think how many times as a GM, I actually had this conversation with Megan and Celeste months ago, that long before we had even announced Project Black Flag or TOV, about how the average monster, when you're designing it, might get 3 turns before your players kill it.
If even.
If you're lucky. If you're lucky. So here you as the GM, you have this dope monster that's got all of these cool lair actions and this thing and that thing, and you never get to play it. So we decided instead what we would do is figure out a way to keep our monsters at a high power level, because we know that people love our monster builds. You love those things that we put in at the unique aspects.
Friday.
But we had to figure out a way to meet that, because we've also heard your feedback that they're too powerful for a lot of 5e stuff. How many of you are like, oh my god, your monsters in Tome of Beast 1 are so powerful?
Hey, we were learning back then.
So many of you.
It was why we made a revised edition.
To do was, instead of just saying, well, we'll just create it like the old one, what we are giving it a nice facelift, if you would, so we might as well add what we want. So we decided to bump the characters up a little bit to make them more powerful, so that the monsters that Kobold Press is used to making, and then now players that we're bringing in, or the player options that we're bringing in with TOV, are in themselves more balanced. So we're looking at balance a lot, even though we may not be talking about it, or it may not be things that you see directly ink on paper or on your screen. We're thinking a lot about how we design, because so much of this too, and we've had this internal conversation, we can't lose along the way what makes Kobold unique.
Right.
We can't lose.
We're not changing our identity because people want us to change our identity.
Right, because you want us to be like the other guy. What we're trying to do is just bring what was released into Creative Commons under us and make it for us.
Yeah. We're decorating our house, so you can play in our house.
Exactly. Yeah. To answer your question, Frog Prince, I can tell you the Monster Vault is going to be one of the largest expansions. In the current SRD, what is open and available in the SRD, there is no lore written for monsters. It's just a monster stat block. Name of monster, no description. Doesn't tell you what it looks like unless there's art.
Because flavor is IP.
Because flavor is IP, exactly. So we said, okay, we're going to take all the SRD monsters and fill them full of flavor. We're going to get a description, a new piece of art for every SRD monster, and you're going to get a new description, like a setting-based description that helps you put it into certain spaces, along with new monsters from Kobold Press that are going into this book as well. So you're getting the SRD and then some.
Storyteller, I'll tell you what, I will do this for you, for me as someone who's running streams. When we have a bigger packet out for something in the future, I will show you how to downscale it a little bit, because I love running low-powered stuff as well. I roll in a soul punk Victorian horror setting, so obviously my setting is not high-powered. I move things out to items for those moments of high-poweredness instead of being character-related, but there are ways to scale that very easily. And also, when I ran the 2 audience plays with the wizard and the fighter, I did not feel like first levels were that powerful, or even when we started 3rd level that it was that powerful. So I would definitely say try the class. It isn't as powerful as you think. It's more that it is balanced through the classes is our game plan. We want all the classes to feel there's no like weakness in some of the classes at first level, but they're really good at fits. We wanted to kind of make it across the board. There was a couple other, I want to do these last 2 questions because we're running out of time, because we're keeping this one short.
Yeah, I'm so sorry. Yeah, go ahead.
No, you're fine. I'm looking through I'm doing the same thing with all these questions. I want to do it. Oh, I can downscale. That's important. I got you. Out of the box. Yeah, it's a high fantasy. We're a fantasy set piece. There are a lot of low fantasy stuff out there. I do get what you're saying, though, Storyteller. I just want to say I'll give you the option if you're interested to see how we would do it. That's more what I mean.
Yeah, and I will say there is going to obviously be a little converting here, right? Like you're not going to be able to use backgrounds. You're going to have talents, right? So there will be a little bit of conversion. But
I think they're talking about the scale of power that they have at first to third.
But yeah, and out of the box play, we can go ahead and tell you, our monsters are going to be the same power level. You've seen them before in our other monster books. We're just working to make our player options kind of balance to fit that as well, which means, yes, they are going to be a little bit more powerful than your basic 5e character.
Yep. One of the hardest things directly from the monster manual feels it's hard to say, hard to fit in any setting. Yeah, I think that's just a setting thing, and I can't say how we're addressing that yet. But there is some addressing. We're going to try our best. We can't help everyone, but we're going to try to help the majority if we can with stuff. The other one that I had that was from the public, and you can look through those questions as well if you see one you want to answer that we missed.
Sure. Go ahead.
But with having a designer who has the last name of one of our classes, is that class going to be the best class?
Well, I would say that is already the best class because it's available now for you to play. So see what I did there? I cannot confirm nor deny that class will be available, but I can confirm that internally a few of us have screamed at our lungs that it should be.
Yeah, okay, all right. It's making sure. I was making sure that was still on the agenda to make the witch the most powerful class.
It has not been forgotten.
And that was a fun one someone said during, I think it was the AMA that we had with her.
That's fun.
And it was from that. Another one that was a little more, and I think this is a little too far out for us to answer, but it is a good question for us to be thinking about as we move forward. When we did Deep Magic 2, we let people submit spells and have a chance to be a part of the process. Are we looking to, once we have finalized our 2 licenses and everything is ready to go, we've already brought on a lot of awesome partners. Are we going to open the doors to be able to do more things like submit spells from the community, to submit lineage abilities? Because the way we have broken down what was races and now heritage and lineage stuff for us, those abilities, are we going to open the doors and let people build more stuff and submit?
So, for this Kickstarter, to the general public, no. As you can see, it's a big project on us, and anytime we do backer submissions directly into a book, it adds a lot of additional editorial, editing, and curation work. Plus, we pay out of pocket all of our judges. Right, we pay them for their time to come through and look at 6,000 backer spells. Okay. For this book, we decided that our team of editors and writers would be better served to focus on this book because, as you all know, we are on a very tight time frame to do this. And we have no doubt that it's going to happen, but it becomes more questionable the more things we add, like new things for you to have to edit, the public submissions, the voting round. So,
well, I mean, you could talk about that, though, from Deep Magic. It took a while just to do the spells.
Months, right? And so we said for this book, no. Why? Okay. Because we want to give you what we promised first. Will we be stopping some backer submissions? Absolutely not. We're just waiting on the next best Kickstarter to
bring that back in.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
Now that being said, I will give you all a little tidbit of information. This will become a lot more public very soon, but all of our publishing partners are being given an opportunity to submit a 16 to 20 page adventure to go on into our Kickstarter.
Oh, cool.
So all of our publishing partners, now they can opt in or out. It'll basically be a Kickstarter stretch goal. We have to unlock the level of partner published adventures.
Right.
So you got to back it to help us get to that stretch goal. When that becomes unlocked, there will be a giant bundle. So, for example, we don't have everybody signed up yet. We're still waiting to get,
And Mike. Yep, Mike. I can hear the static pop. I'm going to answer Phantom while you're doing that. Phantom, I did not get to see all the submissions because there were so many. They only went through a few people for that to happen. I've not seen them all. I would love if we did another round of submissions to go out for something else. Maybe just on the blog with an okay from them. That would be stellar. I don't know if that's something in the future, but I still think Kind of Witch Cookies should have been a spell for healing based on alignment. And if you didn't have the same alignment as the witch, it harmed you. It'd be like the poison apple all over. I'm just saying it could have been stellar. So go ahead, Dot. Anyway, continue what you were saying.
Okay, I'm back with it now. What was I talking about?
You were talking about the people submitting for
publishing
the publishers. Yep.
So, what it will be is when we unlock that stretch goal, a bundle, so we'll just say for now, 10 adventures will become available for an add-on price. So you're going to get 10 outside Kobold Press. Maybe it's Frog God Games, or maybe it's Steam Forge.
There's so many publishers.
You know, there's so many. Mage Hand Press. They're going to hand over fully edited, designed by them. We're not touching them. These are by the outside companies to bundle into a single add-on downloadable packet of stuff. So though we're not taking backer submissions, we are getting submissions from some of hopefully your favorite and our favorite publishing partners, such as Lou Anders, like I said, Mage Hand. So we're waiting to actually be able to tell you what
VTTs do it personally.
I don't know if the VTTs will join us for that. I hope that I can tell you that they're all going to host those adventures when they're done. But you'll get a nice PDF download pack. And it will be a nice starter set. So, you know, to kind of tie it all together. So, yeah, we're writing lore, say, for these monsters in the Monster Vault. But the monsters are getting a description that allows you to put them into any aquatic setting or any mountain setting or any forest setting, or maybe they don't have a setting, maybe they're just general faces. You can put them where you want. And because the rest of our publishers are using the CFR, they're going to be using things from that book, which means that you're going to have potentially a slew of fresh adventures across multiple levels written by incredible people from the industry at your beck and call and available to you right out of the gate. So all you need to do is make sure to help us reach that stretch goal and back the Kickstarter to gain access to it.
Well, the last question I have is a deep one. Only because I don't know if we can say or have the ability to say yet.
Okay.
But I think you can allude. A lot of people who have been talking about TOV have asked, as we're putting out these packets, we're on, the packets have grown in size. We've got packet 1, packet 2, packet 3, dropping Friday. Packet 3 is hands down larger than both put together. And with that, people want to know, is the packet, we said we're doing more, but is a packet stopping there, these kind of playtest packets? And what is going to happen, because the Kickstarter's around the corner, with the packets moving forward during and after the Kickstarter?
Great question. So this will, as we have said, this maybe isn't a new game from every aspect, but this whole process is new to Kobold Press. We've never released a core rule book, right? This is our first core rule book. So here's what I can tell you. This month, you're going to get monsters. I think it's important to set expectation that you, as the public, are not going to see every aspect of this book before it releases.
No, because then it would just be the book.
Right. What we're doing is taking slices of the pie that we need you to taste test for us and tell us how it is, so we can bring it back to the creative team so they can put this polished finish on it and fill in the gaps that you may not see. So for many of you who feel like the last few playtest packets have been slim pickings, well, we've got to start somewhere. And what we did was we picked, say, 2 opposite classes to get you to taste test. And then you give us your feedback on that taste test, and then we move forward and build the next thing. So in terms of timeline, you're going to get monsters this month. It's going to give you a good idea of how we're going to stat these, how we're writing them out. Nice, chunky, beefy packet. In May, you're going to get what we are considering playtest packet number 4. It's called the Quick Start Guide, but it is actually technically the 4th playtest packet. The Quick Start Guide will be a nice, chunky, 50+, probably more, page document that has all of the first 3 playtest packets with your feedback included, edited, laid out, redone in a nice packet, along with 4 pre-generated characters.
Oh, cool.
Right?
Mike. 4 pre-generated characters, which means, I'm guessing that means 2 other classes is my guess, because unless it's 2 wizards and 2 fighters, that means we're going to get more.
Correct. So you're going to get to see, you may not have seen that class build, but you're going to get to see that class in action. So again, you have to realize, like, we can't give you everything. So we're trying to give you what we really want your feedback on, because your feedback then drives us in all the decisions we make moving forward.
Fill the survey out.
Right. Yes. Please fill that survey out. Don't just like peep at the packet. Like we want you to really play it. It doesn't make a difference if you don't play it. So all of that to be said, May quick start guide drops. It's going to be available. It's going to be the best kind of full piece that you're going to have at this point. You should be able to go sit down and play a game. In June and July, we will release 2 more packets.
Yeah.
Our Kickstarter backers will gain first access, exclusive first access.
That's what I wanted to know if we could talk about.
That doesn't mean that the public is not getting them. You are. But because our Kickstarter backers are in for the ride, they're going to get first access.
Yeah.
Are you still going to be able to submit public feedback? Of course you are. We're not cutting anybody out. This isn't about silencing you. No. This is just about looking at the people who have backed this project and said, we really want to see this happen to gain first access.
Well, and we have to aim our focus. When you do a Kickstarter, everything else that's outside, you still handle. But for that 30 days, you have to really tunnel vision on the goal.
On the goal.
Because there is a lot of communication happening, not just internally. We all know that. Externally between you and the people who are interested. So it's all hands on deck during that month, you know, like get your Red Bull, get your 5-hour energies, everybody, you're on deck. That's important. With that said, do you know what the backer level is? So if someone wants to get on board for that and make sure they get access right away, are we doing like a $5 or $10 pledge or anything like that?
No matter what you back at. So I've already heard a lot of people that are like, I just want to back at $1 to make sure that this makes it.
And that's fair.
Doesn't matter. You back it. You throw support into the Kickstarter, which does a couple things for us, right? Your $1 still bumps that bar up, right?
Yeah.
Your $1 back still gives us a number in the tally count at the end, right? It still matters to us, and it still shows a level of dedication for our project. So when you back, we're just giving them first exclusive access. Yeah. Then it will become available to the public.
Is it going to be after the Kickstarter that happens?
Nope. They'll get 2 weeks and then.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Right.
Okay.
It'll roll.
Perfect.
So everybody's still going to get it in the month. You're still going to get the June kit. You're still going to get the July kit, right? And then July bumps up into August, and our final process for playtesting is live at Gen Con 2023.
Oh.
It is the final, and here's why. We'll have had 2 more playtest packets out, which are expanding on the rest of the classes.
Sure.
And the quick start guide. By Gen Con, we're zooping all of that together in our first round of
Not
editing.
heard that word in a long time.
Right? Zoop. It all together so that we can have a really kind of full packet for our GMs to run players through at Gen Con 2023.
Yeah, it's going to be pretty fire. I'm not going to lie. Gen Con 2023 is going to be crazy for us. I'm excited. With that said, that's a lot of stuff going on. Can you give us a hard date for the Kickstarter?
Can I give you a hard date?
Like, boom, this is the day. Be ready. Be ready unless fires happen.
Yet. I can't yet, only because I'm waiting on some approvals from Kickstarter before we can do that. Here's what I'll say. In true Kobold fashion, we do tend to have some. We've been, releasing most of our playtest packets the 3rd week of the month to the 4th week of the month. You can probably assume that the 4th playtest packet, called the Quick Start Guide, might drop in and around the launch date of the Kickstarter, like the 3rd or 4th week of May.
So that's...
I think I was vague enough to get by.
That's pretty... Is there anyone looking? There's no one here. We're safe. Story, I can tell you that we are doing some fun stuff at the con. I am privately looking into a way for us to stream a few of our games while we're there. I know that Dot and I have talked in the background about how do we make this happen, because her and I both work in the very similar industries for years, surprisingly, and we never met each other until this, which is also wild. But we would love to have some fun stuff that is live for you to be able to see what the Gen Con package piece is like. I intend to do a lot of interviews while I'm there and talk to people, not only just people in here, but people who are playing the game and having some fun things to do that, because I can stream live from there if I can make sure that internet connection is good. If you've ever been to Gen Con, that internet connection is hot garbage.
This is why I did all video last year, y'all. No live streaming for
But the problem is when you go back, it's very difficult to upload on internet connection in a hotel because hotel sucks. So you may see a lot of vertical content from me while we're there. And I have a way for YouTube for us to stream vertical very well, and then TikTok, if our new account does what we want, we'll be able to hopefully do it there as well. And that'll give us the ability to do a lot of live stuff, and that's part of my game plan while we're there. I will say that because I know how I work at cons. But is there anything else, Dot, that you want to spill? Any other any other Kobold Press love that you want
to further offer some comforts in terms of timeline? Because I don't know if y'all are like me, we like to have solid timelines. So after our April or our August Gen Con round, we are going to be allowing every person that playtests to give feedback. We're going to have a process for that. A big one. So everybody gets last round of feedback. After August, we go into deep dive hard development. All the kobolds go in the cave to make this book finished because we would like to have it out into the printer before the end of the year.
Yeah. Because of printing and the things that happen around December.
Things, right? Yeah, a variety of things. Chinese New Year and a whole bunch. We're just trying to avoid a lot of stuff so that we can attempt to have books in hand to you by May 2024. So I think it's important to...
And Mike, by May 2024. I think that's... And I'll be honest, we deliver on time very frequently. As someone who was a fan of Kobold before I worked here, we delivered a lot on time. So I'm hoping that maybe it's even early because my birthday's in April. So
so that being said, I can definitely promise you our real goal, like the pie in the sky goal, is to have books in hand by March 2023.
Awesome. You're also on a different mic. And with that, I think that there's one thing that, if anything happens, and I'm the most excited to see, is I can't wait to see the trade dress for Tales of the Valiant. Because me as a player, a GM, and a hyper creative, being able to see what the inside of the book's like, being able to envision what the people inside the den have been building in the Warrens, allows me to be on the same page with them as I'm running stuff and presenting or at my own table going, okay, this is the vision. This is what things are going to look like.
Well, and I think that's the last thing that I wanted to bring up before we close out today, which is we, along with the quick start guide to the general public as playtest packet number 5, are also going to be releasing a content creator kit publicly.
No.
And I don't know if Eric's told y'all about it, but we're telling you now because what we want you to do is start gearing up for it. You've got a Twitch channel. You make YouTube content. Maybe all you do are D&D TikToks. We are going to be releasing a massive file that is going to have overlays, assets, art, everything that you could possibly need to make content as easy as possible so that all you have to do is go find your cast and turn on Twitch. We've got your overlays ready to go. We've got your videos. There's no need for you to have to design something, hire an artist. We are trying to give you that TOV trade dress
for free.
For you to go for free. It is entirely for free.
You're welcome, everybody. I don't know who was pushing hard between Dot and I the hardest to make sure that there was stuff, and Dot's like, we're doing this. I was like,
the two of us.
Yes.
So basically what I did was like, I had this idea. I want this to happen. I was like, Eric, I need you to put together all of the list of things that would go into
this. It was a 3-hour meeting
so,
once, and we have 2 more before May, so I'm
we've got this wonderful kit that's coming out that's really meant for all of you because like I mentioned earlier, it's really important to us that you actually play this material, not just like read a packet. And so we're just trying to make it one step easier for all of you that do Twitch actual plays or YouTube shorts or whatever it is that is your outlet or medium for content creation. You have every single thing that you would need to have you 10 steps ahead to be able to go out and actually play this. And like chat said, thank you, chat. It's a huge value to just have it in a way that we as a company are taking on the expense to have them designed so that you don't have to.
And here's the thing, like, and this is the last thing I'll say about it before we close out for the day. When I talk to the person doing the design work for this, they come from an amazing design background, and I come from the industry of doing overlays from working in like news and stuff in the past. My overlays, as Dot have seen, are way more than they should be for doing stuff. Above and beyond. Dot's like, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm making an entire everything. I want to be able to change cameras and everything. So our goal is to be able to provide the really high level version, but also boil it down to the mid and beginner level as well. Or maybe you're doing a one shot and you're like, I don't need this. I need this. We're going to make sure that it's packaged out and easier for you to do. So the project manager who's part of our team and I see very eye to eye on that. And we're making sure that it is planned first, developed second, so that you can take it, download it, and if we have a way to make it one click, we'll see what we can do. Because there are ways to do it. There's just more involved. If nothing else, we want to offer the PSD files for those who are doing the more advanced thing, so that you can pull them apart and make it for your stream. We don't want all your streams to look identical. We just want to make it so that you can make the stream as easy as possible. So that's what I'll say for my
That's
end.
our little freebie to all of you.
Yeah.
You know, and there's so much right now in our community where
Can't say enough, unfortunately.
I know. There's so much in our community right now where people it's hard to participate when everything is hand selected. And part of our goal with this content creator kit was to say, we're not hand selecting you. We're giving you all the assets you need. We are not here to stop you. You need a palette full of paint. Here, let us put that paint on. We bought the paint. We're gonna put it on there for you. Now go paint the masterpiece.
Go make your masterpiece.
Exactly. So we're simply just trying to be a bit of a bridge to a community that sometimes is forgotten, or to a lot of our content creators or influencers or whatever word you want to use, media professionals.
Broadcasters.
Who are out there, broadcasters out there doing the hard work, knowing that the hardest step to making anything is having to have all the assets and the design and the stuff, and I don't have the money, but what about an artist? Well, you won't need any of that. We'll have pre-generated characters. We're going to have everything that you need to just let you go do what it is you want to do, which is play games and have fun.
And I'm going to do a setup stream. That's part of my thing that I'm going to do. And it won't be a Kobold chat. It'll be a separate one where I sit down and show you how to set this up as a beginner. And then I may do a masterclass if some people are interested in doing it, because there's some really cool things you can do with very minimal effort. You just need the matrix in the process. So, Dot, thank you for coming on, even though your mic hates you today. Yep. It's not your friend. Does your mic know how to be your friend? Nope, it's silence right now. Now it does.
Oh, is it better?
No, it's good now.
Okay, good.
Dot, is there anything fun that you can say that you have going on outside of Kobold chats? Are you on any shows? Yeah, you got anything?
You can go check out my podcast. It's called Pod by Night. We use mostly World of Darkness, but we're an award-winning podcast, and it's my little baby outside of Kobold Press. And then the rest of the time, I've actually slimmed down to only one game a week.
What?
Like, that's not my podcast, I know.
You're not busy. Why?
Which is my home game, or my friend table game, where I'm actually playing the One Ring with some friends over on Unmade Gaming.
Oh.
So you can check that out. And then this weekend I have a special event. We're going to be raising money for the war on the Ukraine, to support the Ukraine. And I'll be playing with Critical Bard and Neurological over on, and I can't remember the channel. There'll be some stuff coming out, but there's a charity event this weekend I'm doing, so that's going to be fun. And I'm going to break out some crazy Kobold character for the play, or for the game.
Probably going to be a squirrel, knowing you.
Yeah, probably.
Well, all right. Wave bye, Dot. Stay in the background. I'll be with you 1 second. Thank you, everybody, for joining us this week, minus the tech issues. Hey, it would not be a stream unless the gremlins came out. Or are gremlins the ultimate enemy of kobolds? That's a good adventure idea. But thank you for joining us today, and we will see you next Wednesday with a very special Packet 3. Packet 3 with a very special kobold to talk about monsters, baby. Have a great one, everybody, and I will see you this Friday as we talk to the Word Refinery, one of our partners. We'll be on at the same time this Friday, going through all the amazing stuff that they are doing. Have a great one, everybody.